Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are crime dramas. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the season 4 premiere of The Cleaning Lady. Great season premiere. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So we kind of had that in-res media type of opening where Tony, Fee, Chris, and Luca are all they're trying to petition for like citizenship, and we find out later on, well, as we rewind, we find out how that all got set up. Russo came, and I at first when Russo popped up, I was like, I love that she's like, well, no, we're not friends and stuff like that, she's like, but just because like I show it doesn't mean it's bad news. And they're like, yeah, it typically does. Even I was like, I thought she was going to present that with them with some stipulations, but it is a thing of like, no, you ended up helping take down Ramona, so she's kind of nudging it along to give them proper American citizenship. So, and they're kind of on top of the world. Because there's interesting enough, I'm going to talk about this now because I don't want to drop it and forget about it later. They did set up this thread at the end of season 3 that basically we know Ramona had someone pretty higher up in her back pocket. Now, whether that's someone like high up in the FBI or just some government official, who knows what it is, but there's someone pretty powerful that, if I remember correctly, was trying to contact Tony at the end of the season, if I remember correctly. But the fact is, we didn't immediately pick up with that thread. Makes me wonder, is that a thread they're abandoning for this season? They retooled it that we're not doing that, or is that just something that hasn't come back yet and it will? Because each season that comes up after Garrett died, I was like, oh, she kind of has no direct connection to the FBI anymore, but then they still kind of kept that alive tangentially through, well, both Russo and Jeremy, which I am curious, is Jeremy going to be in this season or not? But yeah, like, it's on top of the world. We're working. Money's kind of falling through because the money that Nadia had left them got taken as evidence. So they're kind of back to square one. But with the citizenship situation, it makes it so that Tony can go back to working as a surgeon if things kind of work out that way. They will never have to always live with fear, like, always looking over their shoulder. That's always been like this guillotine hanging above their heads. But the problem is, because I was also not expecting us to still be dealing with Ramona, and I'm like, ooh, Ramona's gonna be in this season. But it also makes sense. As long as you're, like, even if you're in prison, as long as you're not dead, you're fine. I mean, some storylines, it's like, hey, the person's in prison and maybe they'll come back later on. It's like, nah, we're starting it off immediately, be like, nah, Ramona in prison, she's still a force to be reckoned with. Her brother might have taken over the operation, but it's still kind of a thing of, you only run things, you're kind of the face of the operation while Ramona's in prison, but she's the one that everyone deals with. She's the one everyone has a relationship with. You're the baby brother who, is just kind of like, you're junior in this operation, whereas Ramona is El Jefe. So she has all the power. And the moment she put out a hit and the guy was like, oh, we've got a little lady to kill, at first I was like, Tony? But then, like, as the episode progressed a little bit, I was like, it's going to be Russo, isn't it? And lo and behold, poor Russo. I was thinking, like, maybe she still have a shot because, like, they threw a Molotov in a car. I was like, maybe, well, Tony's right there. Maybe Tony could get... Nope, car explodes. I was like, wow, that sucks. It's so... I didn't even think about this last season when Nadia died. Like, our main cast, the only main cast members left from the OG main cast is... Tony and her family. Like, everyone outside of Tony's family of the main cast is dead, for various reasons and stuff. Like, that all came to a head, like, when Ramona killed Nadia last season. But like I said, at the time, I didn't even think about that. But it's like, yeah, like, our only other tie, because Russo's been a part of the show since the beginning. So, like, one of the only other OG characters outside of the Russo, outside of Tony's family is dead now. You're like, oh, Jesus. But then I'm like, oh, so is there not going to be an FBI connection in this series? Or, like I said, will Jeremy come back? Or will it be another FBI agent that ends up kind of connecting with them? At least, well, it didn't always benefit her, but at least for Tony, there was the Russo connection through Garrett. But that also, like, mainly played out through Nadia last season. So, yeah, it's just like, wow. I'm also curious on some level. I was like, was that just a storytelling decision, or was that the actress who plays Russo? Was that just her decision? Because it's not like she was in last season a lot either. So they might have just, the role was just probably just what it was, or I don't. You never know, because sometimes actors could just be like, oh yeah, I don't want to do this anymore, so write me out of a show or something. But it could just be like, no, that's just the direction the character's story was written to be. That wasn't really the actor's choice. That was just like the creators and the writer's choice. But whatever, getting into the weeds and behind the scenes of it all, like, it's not really that important, but still, it's just like every time Tony feels like she takes a step forward, something happens in the criminal world specifically that will always drag her back 2 steps. And in this particular case, she went to go visit, well, because her initial plan was to run away. She was going to run. She was going to take Luca to the Philippines. It's like, right, this happened in front of me. Like, at any point in time, she could have easily come and killed me, but she didn't. That was also kind of her proving a point. So it's like, I doubt they planned that out to do it in front of you. It just happened to work out perfectly that it happened in front of Tony. But either way, she was going to run, but it's actually Luca convincing her, like, no, we should stay. Aunt Fee says, like, anytime, Tito Fee says that, Tita Fee says that every time, like, if you run away when a bully chases after you, you'll be running forever. So you need to stand up to him. So Tony came back with Luca, which, obviously Fee was freaking out for a second. Because, obviously it's just like a last minute decision. She's grabbing up Luca, packing stuff. We're going to go start a new life. And it's just like Chris and Jazz and Fee. Because for Fee, it's like, you're kind of like my heart. Like, you're like a part of me at this point. And she even explains it. It's like, right, family isn't just something where you can pull and pick pieces to it. It's like, we are a unit. It's like us all as a unit is what makes us, family, like, no matter the distance or whatever. But it's like, kind of having that distance from Tony would kind of cause some issues. But either way, Tony came back and goes to talk to Ramona. And she's like, all right, whatever you want from me, Ramona, I will give it for you. Just give me my family Visa cards. And she's like, why would I work with you, Tony, considering you helped put me in prison? But Tony's like, all right, fine, I'll never work for you. Cool, bounces. But it's like, cool, bring my brother here. Now, my initial thought was, that feels a little trappy. Like, oh, I'm going to bring my brother here, so it'll be... But to be fair, you could always get him at any other point in time. But it just kind of felt a little trappy. It's like, she has a very twisted relationship with her brother. Because it's like, well, obviously you're pissed at him because, hey, he helped lock you up. I even love Tony reminder. It's like, hey, you were going to take his daughter from him, and you were going to frame him for all your crimes. I think he's justified in turning it against you. But she's like, yeah, what I was doing was for his sake. A little time in prison would have hardened him up, would have made him stronger, And just like, oh yeah, gee, thanks. Like, her justification for all that, throwing her own brother under the bus. But for her mind, it's like, my brother doesn't have the cojones. He doesn't have that in him to lead. And as we see, other people can see that and feel that on him too, considering the people like that are in the more like the people who he's making the business deals with on the surface of things. They the aspects of being the college educated person that he is, but the underworld, the criminal side of the world doesn't like buy him as like the head of Sin Cara. It's still like, nah, as long as Ramona's around, like, go visit her first, and then we'll listen to whatever choice she makes, so. But like I said, we saw last season how twisted her, Ramona is like her perception of love, how she handles that, in a grand scheme of things, and how she shows that. So Tony ends up visiting Jorge and fills him in on like, yeah, I went to go see your sister. She wants to see you. The whole Russo of it all. But while they're talking and stuff, people come after him. Now, there's a good chance Ramona hired them, but most likely these are other people being like, well, we need to bump Jorge out of the way just because people don't side with him and think he's a weak link in the operation. So it might not even, and they might not even be doing it for Ramona's sake, because for them it benefits him, because it's like, oh, the actual Jefe is in prison, and yeah, she can pull strings, but it's a lot harder to lead an entire cartel from prison. You can do some stuff here and there, but you leave yourself vulnerable without the head of the operation. And so they look at Jorge as a weak link, and it's like, okay, if we take him out, because this was probably like the first big meeting. This definitely was the first big meeting of some of the criminal cartels without Ramona. This is the first big meeting since she went to prison. So it's definitely got to be a situation of they saw an opportunity, especially because no one at that criminal circle respected Jorge. So they're like, oh, cool. I can bump him off without repercussions necessarily, as long as I keep, don't have it trail back to me. Like I said, still a good chance this could all be operated and orchestrated by Ramona, but I feel like it's definitely someone else in that world, because even Ramona herself was saying, like, right, they see him as weak and he's going to be in danger from the other people, so he needs to come and see me so I can be, yes, once again, he's the face of that operation, but really it's my operation to lead. I will give him advice. Basically, he'll bark out my orders and, go about them, because that's the only way we're going to survive. This is how the Senkata is going to survive, and that's how my brother is going to survive. Because she said it herself, like, her brother is a dreamer, and he's trying to fulfill his late wife's dream, and he wants to he wants to build out an operation, especially with that stadium. All your goals last season is like, no, I'm going to try and perform my wife's, what she wanted, make a better world for our daughter so that my daughter has like generational wealth and a legacy that is clean and never can be taken from her type of situation. So, but you're also kind of scared because you're like, yeah, there's a good chance Jorge doesn't survive this. Like, whether it's by Ramona's hand, someone else's hand, there's just a good chance he doesn't survive. And, even his daughter's like, oh, what's going to happen to me if something happens? My immediate thought was, well, not unless he leaves her to Tony. Because Tony would probably be the only other person he trusts. But, I mean, I guess it's also like he could always send her to live with Audubon's parents, because that's still family. So you would have her not mixed up in this whole cartel world. So there's always that possibility. But if anything else, it probably would be Tony, but Tony's still connected to this world, so that might still be a no. But Tony's going to end up being the person you probably end up trusting most in this world, so that might put more in her corner. Plus, she's got her own kids to think about. She has her own family unit of her, Chris, Fee, Jazz, and JD. So like there's also a family unit to look after your daughter too. So I get the feeling like that might be a sad tragedy to it all as well, but we'll see. A storyline I wasn't necessarily sure where it was going to go is when Chris took the jewels. You're like, oh boy, because he wants to go to LA to see Camilla, and I was like, okay, because Fee was like, right, we don't really have the money for that. And he was like, right, just sell those jewels. And I mean, initially you could tell she doesn't want to sell the jewels for sentimental value, because it's like, well, it's kind of like keeping a piece of Nadia with you. But other than that, it's just like, oh, we'll sell the jewels. And he got them appraised. Didn't even sell them, got them appraised. That drew cops' attentions, because it's not only like, well, here's a kid showing up with jewelry that's worth like $500,000. It also turned out they were stolen like 3 years ago. So you're like, cool. And now Fee's lost that. Like, even if she wanted to sell those in the future, which, hey, you would have had to deal with this at some point in time. But to be fair, Fee was never going to sell them because there was sentimental value associated with it as well. But yeah, because Chris was like, yeah, I wanted money to go to LA, but also like we as a whole family could use some money. But yeah, that's no longer an option. Hell, no going to college, because even Fee was like, that money from those was going to be like their college fund. So the plan was to sell them eventually, but could have been craftier about selling it, because there will always be the possibility that it might be some hot merchandise. So yeah, like I said, I just wasn't sure where that storyline was going, because I thought the point was going to be like he's going to sell the jewels or something's going to go wrong and they're going to be looking for them later on, or hey, we should sell those jewels. Oh wait, like maybe Chris got shortchanged and tricked into taking way less money than it's worth, type of thing. Or I just figured something was going to go wrong. I wasn't expecting it to like all come out and play out in the same episode. So we'll see where things kind of go on that front, especially because Chris is trying to figure out things for himself, because it's like, yeah, nothing in their lives have changed. The only thing is I've grown older and everything around us is still the same. So the circumstances being what they are, the crappy circumstances that they're in, he's still, without being not being a citizen in this country. So his mom is suggesting like you work at the cleaning company with me, start from there and kind of figure things out as you go, like have some money of your own. But we'll see how that all plays out. Circling back to Tony and the whole Jorge of it all, there was an attack, and luckily Jorge came out of it okay. His entire squad, like the one of his people got shot in the leg, but he's good because Tony took care of him. The other person was obviously Jorge getting hurt, but luckily Tony covered for that too. Even though they have a doctor on the payroll, Tony's better at this than him, and is willing to say like, all right, screw it, make me the main Sin Cara's doctor, and it's like this way. You'll get me working. I'll work at a legitimate hospital, and I can be who you want to, because that's what the guy was. And he's like, "Oh, you don't know what you're going to see some things you haven't seen, do some things you've never done before." She's like, "Oh, like seeing a woman burn in front of you, or having to dispose of dismembered body parts." Yeah, got it. It's like, homie, you don't know who you're talking to. Tony's been through the ringer the past 3 seasons. She's seen a lot. She's done a lot. Been a part of a lot. Lost a lot too. So, and I love her just for like, once again, it's all because that's always been this thing with Tony. I was never fully sure where her character was going to go, where it's like, I had talked about this previously, because you do have moments where, like, yes, Tony tries to get out of the business, but it also seems like it's so easy for it to draw her back in, because she is good at it. It's almost kind of like the Good Girls of it all. Like, if you've ever seen that show, it's like Beth. Beth was never like, out of any of the, whether it was like, out of the trio, she was the one that was the most about the criminal world, because she was good at it. So it ends up being that situation of Tony's kind of played that role, never like full Walter White embracing it. She's always had a reluctancy about it, trying to get out, but it always drags you back in. But she's always felt a certain pull to that darkness, because it's become a part of her world, and that darkness, once it's seeped into you, it kind of stains your soul a little bit, and there's no like scrubbing that off. So it is a thing of like, it becomes too easy for Tony to be like, all right, I'm gonna take advantage of this underworld situation to make the most of it. So, but for her, it's like, the criminal world has taken enough from me. It's time for me to take some back. Because Jorge was like, yeah, I offered you this choice before and you didn't take it. She's like, well, I'm taking it now. So this is what it's going to be. And because this also puts her in a situation where Ramona can't do anything to her and her family, because it's like, well, we are part of the same cartel. You might have beef with me, but doing that is going to look bad when you're killing people in your own organization for no reason, especially when you know what how good Tony is, how capable she is as a doctor. So despite your bad blood, and she also has your brother's protection. So like, you can't really make too many moves, because your brother's always going to be on guard, so. But obviously Tony's keeping the rest of the family in the dark, with the exception of Fee. It's a good thing. Like, right, you gotta trust in your confidant about this. So Fee's kind of like, is this really a good idea? But it's like, it's the only way to kind of keep them safe. And it also benefits them in the long run, because it puts them in a position where, once again, she will be legitimately helping at a hospital and also doing some criminal stuff on the side. So there is legitimacy in the criminality of it all. But also, like, Fee's going to be running the cleaning business by herself. But at least you're going to have Chris to kind of back you up. But I mean, obviously, like, that's just, he's kind of, one of the other workers. He's not going to be kind of running things with you. So that's going to be a lot for Fee to handle. So. And then also the ending of the episode where Ramona speaks to Tony on the phone, where it's just like, oh, I heard you became the doctor for the Sin Cara. What about my brother? Did you tell him to visit me? And it's like, yes. And whether he visits you or not, that's his choice. I don't work for you. And she's just talking about, like, you joining the cartel, is that his decision or yours? And she's like, right, the men seem to have the throne, but it's the women who has the power. And then I love Tony's like retort being like, I feel bad for you, Ramona, because women can have both. So good night. I was like, ooh, getting into final words. I'm like, yeah. As just like, that's just gonna make her hate you more. Which we didn't even speak of, like, the woman Elena, who's part of like a cartel. I think she is from I think she even said, like, I'm from Sin Cara. And yeah, Ramona killed her because it's like, yeah, you're a junkie, and I can't take the chance that a junkie might sell me out for some drugs. Because she was like, yeah, you could go to this guard and get some stuff if you want. If it means like, because like, oh, you get a cell phone from this guy for in exchange for sexual favors. I thought she was going to have Elena do that, but it's like, well, she killed Elena because it's like, I can't trust you not to screw me over. So, but yeah. But yeah, like I said, I like Tony just kind of being like all fierce at the end of the episode, even telling the guy like, "Get out of my way," and then just tosses his phone towards him, and it falls, and you can hear it land on the ground. I'm like, "Ooh, badass Tony!" So once again, it's just like she's tired of taking shit from the cartel world, and once again, it's time to like kind of give some payback in that regard. And it's like as she was kind of explaining to Lucas, she's like, "Right, I'm not scared anymore," and it's like she's always kind of had to be on the back foot, and she's found her footing time and time again, but she's always been pushed to her back foot. Once again, one step forward, two steps back, but it's like, nah, I'm going to take bigger strides this time to make things go the way I want them to. The end result and end goal is to eventually get visas for her family, and because Jorge had told her, like, never make a deal with my sister, because the moment you get anything from my sister, you will forever be in her debt. Your entire family will. So, and you know who she is. You know how vengeful she can be. You can't trust Ramona. She's always going to, like, hate you. She's going to use you because she would never forgive you for being the reason why she got locked up. So, I could also see, like, if Jorge dies this season, either one or both of them is going to die this season. Either Ramona gets killed in prison type of thing, or she somehow gets out. Because I don't know, like, if Russo's death or whatever is going to hamper that case in any shape or form. I'd assume not. I think it's all said and done. But who knows? If she might not have gone to court yet. She might just be in jail. But I'd assume, like, she's already been through court and she was sentenced. But because I think even Jorge said, like, oh, killing Russo is just going to solidify the case against her more. So I think she's still awaiting trial. I mean, it takes a while for you. I think TV shows don't always showcase how much time can pass between someone being on trial. You look at Law and Order, you think that's a pretty quick turnaround. No, like, it could be a couple years in between someone going to trial and stuff like that. Like, there's preliminary stuff here and there, but like an actual, like, full-blown trial, that can take months, if not years. So she might be in that phase where she hasn't properly gone to trial yet. So there's always a possibility charges end up getting dropped or whatever, and then ultimately Ramona's back on the straight. But I get the feeling like, at very least, I think she won't survive this season, because either Jorge or Tony feels the need to remove her from the equation, because it's like, you're too much of a threat to leave alive anymore. I mean, there's always a possibility one, if not both of them, tries to put a hit out on her while she's in prison, but she manages to survive. So I don't know. There's a multitude of ways this can go. I did not watch the trailer for this season. I don't try to avoid watching season trailers for new seasons of shows, but I have no idea what to expect from this season to see where this goes or how this all plays out. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.